While Washington builds tariff walls, Beijing is building railways. As U.S. tariffs cut Africa's trade flows, China is pouring billions into supply corridors, financing factories, and shifting value-added processing to its own ports. The big question is, will America's tariff gamble only fuel inflation, or will it also mean the permanent loss of U.S. influence in Africa? Let's dive in. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our deep dives into global economics and geopolitics. In early 2024, Washington imposed a 10% tariff on African exports under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. By mid-2025, tariffs averaged 17–22%, covering textiles, processed food, alloys, and specialty chemicals. Result: U.S. imports from Africa collapsed, 28% decline in value, 22% drop in volume, while prices rose 7.6%. Retailers shifted orders to Vietnam, Honduras, and Jordan, leaving African exporters stranded. As Western economic engagement with Africa contracted, a new global power moved to fill the void. While U.S. trade declined, China's appetite for African goods exploded. In a single year, Chinese imports surged by 18% in volume, while the value of these goods skyrocketed by 31%. This wasn't just a trade imbalance. It was the signal of a new economic paradigm, where the continent's resources found a powerful and eager new partner. This surge was no accident, but the result of a meticulously planned strategy. Beijing began financing the very arteries of modern commerce. By funding new processing plants and sprawling rail links, China built efficient corridors to coastal ports. This ensures a steady flow of resources to its industrial heartland, while securing key stages of the value chain on African soil. The impact of this strategy is physically reshaping nations across the continent. In Kenya, a $1.2 billion loan is funding the Lamu Special Economic Zone. More than a port, it's a hub for textiles and agri-processing, designed to help Kenya move up the value chain from a raw material exporter to a manufacturer of finished goods. In Egypt, a $600 million investment created a massive complex for cable harnesses and electronics. Leveraging the country's strategic location, the facility produces critical components for global automotive and tech supply chains, positioning Egypt as a vital manufacturing node. Perhaps most strategically, China is investing in lithium processing in Nigeria. As the world races towards an electric future, lithium is critical. By financing local processing, China secures a vital component for its dominant EV industry, integrating a key African resource directly into its high-tech supply chain. The scale of this financial commitment is staggering. In just 6 months, China's new loans to Africa topped $7.8 billion, outpacing all U.S. development financing for the continent by nearly 10-to-1. This financial dominance is a clear statement of intent, cementing a partnership that is actively redefining Africa's economic future. The first pressure was a classic price shock. Take cotton blend clothing. Raw cotton from Africa was often shipped to China for milling and assembly. When tariffs hit these finished Chinese goods, the price of a t-shirt on an American shelf spiked. Consumers balked, and demand collapsed. This left U.S. importers with warehouses full of expensive inventory they couldn't sell, directly hitting their bottom line. The second pressure was a cost push on manufacturers. This affected companies relying on intermediate goods, essential components for a final product. For instance, specialized motor wiring harnesses assembled in China had no immediate alternatives. U.S. automakers couldn't just switch suppliers. They were forced to absorb the tariff costs, which squeezed their profit margins, reduced their competitiveness, and put American jobs at risk. The third and most strategic pressure was deepening dependency. This was starkly clear with critical minerals like cobalt and rare earths, vital for batteries and high-tech electronics. While mined in Africa, the U.S. lacks the capacity to refine them. That crucial value-adding stage is dominated by China. So, the tariffs ironically reinforced America's reliance on its rival for processed materials essential to its economy and national security. Connecting these pressures reveals a stark conclusion. The tariffs, designed to bolster American industry, had a powerful, unintended consequence. In short, the U.S. effectively gave away the most profitable part of Africa's export journey, the value-added stage, to China. Instead of fostering direct trade, the policy strengthened China's role as the indispensable middleman, allowing it to capture immense value and consolidate its control over critical global supply chains. AGOA used to be a powerful, yet subtle soft power tool for Washington. It was a low-cost, high-reward strategy. Without massive direct investments, the promise of tariff-free access to the world's largest consumer market was enough to anchor the economic ambitions of many African nations to the U.S. Industries like textiles and agriculture flourished, creating jobs and fostering entrepreneurs who looked west for opportunity. This economic interdependence was the bedrock of American influence, a quiet link forged through trade. But that link has become dangerously frayed. Inconsistent application of benefits and new trade uncertainties eroded trust, creating a policy vacuum. While Washington debated, Beijing was pouring concrete. Through its Belt and Road Initiative, China financed and built the foundational infrastructure African nations desperately needed: modern railways, deep-water ports, and special economic zones. For African leaders, the choice became stark: America's abstract promise of market access versus China's tangible reality of a new highway. The results are now clearly visible. In Ethiopia, coffee and manufacturing output are increasingly destined for Asian markets, facilitated by Chinese-built industrial parks. In Tanzania, vast copper wealth is now processed and shipped east. The economic compass for many of Africa's rising economies is decisively reorienting, following these new arteries of trade. This economic shift has profound military consequences. The U.S. military's logistical network, particularly vital hubs in Djibouti and Kenya, relies on commercial port access. As Chinese companies gain influence over these key maritime gateways, Washington loses leverage. The scenario where U.S. naval ships could be delayed, monitored, or even denied access to ports managed by a strategic competitor is no longer a distant threat. It's a creeping vulnerability, turning commercial infrastructure into a geopolitical choke point. USTR is considering two options. 1. Substitute origin rule. Waive tariffs if U.S. machinery inputs are used. 2. Partial tariff rollback on textiles and food. But domestic politics ahead of U.S. elections make a full rollback unlikely. Africa, meanwhile, is already planning insurance pools and collective financing to reduce dependence on Washington, while deepening ties with Beijing. What began as a tariff policy to curb inflation has backfired, raising costs at home while pushing Africa firmly into China's orbit. If Washington doesn't reverse course, this new normal may cement China's dominance in Africa's trade for decades. What do you think? Should the U.S. roll back tariffs, or has the shift already gone too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis.